Another day, another dollar. You might not think money is something to sing and dance about, but don't worry, that's why I'm here. I'm Julie Beckham, the financial educator at Rockland Trust, and this is Behind the Curtain, Money Made Simple, the podcast that takes the mystery out of money and puts the spotlight on your financial life. If you've ever felt behind, confused, or just totally overwhelmed when it comes to your finances, you are not alone. In fact, you're part of a cast of thousands. So take your seat and silence your phones as we pull back the curtain on personal finance. This is the debut of Behind the Curtain, Money Made Simple podcast at Rockland Trust. And I am Julie Beckham, and I'm here with my sister, my friend, Lauren Beckham Falcone, otherwise known as LBF, on 105.7 WROR's morning show. Bob and LBF entertain me every morning, but in reality, my sister has entertained me since I was born. So when we were brainstorming how to kick off this podcast, the natural answer was, do you think your sister would interview you? And because she's my sister, my friend, she said yes. So introducing LBF, who will be introducing me.
I know. Like, this is great.
It's kind of like playing house at home or something like that.
That's right. I have a couple of questions. About your podcast and everything, all that good stuff, and about you. But I think the most pertinent question I have, and I think since we're public now, where is my Sony Walkman?
Oh my God. With all the other stuff I borrowed and never returned.
Yeah, I know. Also, we'll get to the prom dress eventually, but that's missing, and I blame this lady. But we're not talking about borrowing prom dresses. We're talking about borrowing money. We're talking about finance. We're talking about Julie. We're talking about all this good stuff in this new podcast. I feel like I'm going to learn a lot because I'm not particularly good with money, but my sister is, because I'm a little background here. My sister, who is a singer and a dancer and always in the plays and all these other things, you're like, why is she in banking and money and finance? And nobody knows why, but I do. Because when she was little, she had a sign above her bed. And when I say little, like 7, she had a sign above her bed that said, people who owe me money. And it was like, because, she always had cash from birthdays. And we'd be like, a little older and be like, Julie, I got to go out. Can you give me $5? And she would, like Scrooge, write it down and smack it up with tape on a piece of paper above her bed. It was insane.
It's right? Really true. I can't even deny this. I could literally picture it above my bed.
Yeah.
And it would change. Ross, our brother, he owed me the most money. He really did. But yeah, I kept a list. I think I was a banker in trading then, with my little sign, my shingle above my bed.
I know, really. It's true. You should have been like accounting, savings and loan. But you weren't like, you were Mr. Potter. You weren't George Bailey.
That wasn't nice. Good thing I didn't understand the concept of interest.
Right. Exactly. No kidding. Thank God. Oh my God. So anyway, besides that, but with the question, from one of the first questions I have, and for the people I think want to know, is that, obviously you were singing, acting, majored in theater and drama and musical theater. And how did you get to financial education?
It's a super circuitous path on how I ended up being an actual banker and not just, telling people they owe me money when I was 7 years old. I was so fortunate to be able to kind of like follow my dream and follow my heart and perform and kind of live that out in New York City and, do children's tours and off-Broadway shows and had a million different jobs. So I was kind of financially educating myself on the fly by having all these part-time jobs to support an artist's life. And when I moved back to Canton, which, kind of is your fault, Lauren, Lauren had a baby and I fell in love with her. So I was like, well, I got to move back to my hometown. I moved back to Canton and I started a drama studio. I ran a theater company and I found myself in fundraising because theater companies are usually nonprofit organizations. And I went to the bank next door to say, hey, can you sponsor this theater? They were sponsoring the theater for a while, and I ended up leaving the job. And they said, well, what are you going to do? And I didn't know. I just knew I just didn't want to be in that fundraising anymore. And they said, well, you've been really creative for us. How would you be creative in bringing financial education to the community? And this was 2010. This was after like the 2008 financial crisis, where people really borrowed more than they could. And banks and organizations, financial organizations particularly, were called upon to, bring financial education to the community. And so because of my musical theater background, and maybe because we watched way too much Sesame Street and Muppets when we were little, I said I would write a musical about money and perform it for free in elementary schools. And I'm not sure a bank president has ever heard an answer to a question like that. And they said, well, yeah, can you put together a proposal? I did. And I wrote Miss Money and the Coins, which is a 35-minute musical about saving, sharing, and spending money. And I performed it to more than 80,000 students at more than 150 elementary schools in the greater Boston area over 10 years. That was my entrance, my very creative entrance into banking. And since then, I've just become financially educated myself, because it's one thing to teach kids about saving, sharing, and spending. It's another to teach teenagers, grown-ups, seniors, and everybody of all ages. And that's what I get to do at Rockland Trust, is I get to teach people of all ages about money.
Yeah, and it's fun to be around Julie in public, because sometimes we'll be someplace and somebody will be like, "Aren't you Miss Money?" Especially like teenagers, and it's like, "Oh my God, you came to my school." And it's also really fun to go on vacation and go into a Rockland Trust and see the Miss Money sign and and press all the buttons, and then I go up to the people at the bank and I'm like, "I'm Miss Money's sister," and they're like, "Oh my God!" So it's super fun. I suggest you do it.
Yeah, it's so fun. It really is. I mean, it's so fun. And I feel so badly sometimes, because I go into a bank branch and, I'll come and say hello. They're like, we see you behind us every day. You're on that digital screen in cartoon form or with this podcast, which is really fun. It's been so just great to be out in the community and getting people, kids, to talk, sing, dance about money, and then in turn getting their parents, grandparents, because money is just such a taboo topic. So it's really, if you don't talk about something, you don't learn about it. And so to get kids at Crisscross Applesauce, which they did, 10 years ago, and now Miss Money's and the Coins is now Miss Money's classroom online for free for parents, teachers, educators, and it's in English, Spanish, and Portuguese, which is something I could not do by myself. So that's been really fun to watch happen too.
That's really cool. So what is the behind the curtain Money Made Simple? What's the story behind it? Because naming things is very difficult. How did you decide on this name?
So actually, I've worked with this great team of colleagues, and one of them, Emily, came up with the title Behind the Curtain, because it represents kind of a little bit of my background, which, theatrical, me on a stage with a microphone, kind of like waiting in the wings, but it also represents the kind of mystery behind financial education and our personal finance goals and the jargon that we hear all the time. I think that we don't tune in and really examine our financial lives because we feel like we should know everything already. And that keeps us from learning. And so there's just so much shame in not knowing how to deal with your own finances. Everything from not talking about it to feeling badly about mistakes that have been made, to feeling like you're not smart enough. And I just want to kind of demystify that. We're all smart enough to learn. And it's just that we haven't been formally taught. And that's not our fault. This is not something, at least in Massachusetts, that's a requirement before graduating from high school. So if we don't talk about it at home, if we don't learn about it in school, we're just not learning. And so we're learning through the school of hard knocks. So I just want to rip open the curtain, kind of like, in The Wizard of Oz, who's that man behind the curtain? What are these acronyms? What are these products and services? What are these life goals that I'm supposed to be caring about that I learn about right before I need them? And, how can I learn about them on the fly, feel good about it, and find out more? So that's really the goal of the podcast, is to demystify this, bring everyone on stage, so to speak, and, figure this out.
Yeah. That's amazing. And you talk about like we're not taught financial education in school. There's like a funny meme about how, oh, thanks for teaching me how to like do square dance, but not how to like file my taxes. And also, it's so important. But my question to you is one, what do you think the sort of most shocking thing you learned about financial education or finances in all of your time doing this? Like you just can't believe that we don't know it, or it's this simple, or it's that hard, or whatever.
Learning that it's okay to ask for help, and then also that there's a lot of things that you can do by yourself alone with some deep thinking, because there's not a one size fits all. I guess maybe to summarize that is personal finance is personal. Yes, we all have these goals that, in general we want to achieve, but whose measuring stick are we using? Are we using society's? Or are we using the one we created for ourselves? And most times I feel like we're using someone else's measuring stick, which keeps us from really digging deep and thinking, what are my actual financial priorities? And how do I live that every day? And then how do I look forward, which is really scary, far enough to make a plan that will work for me today and will work for me 10, 20, 30 years from now.
When I had to sit down with a financial planner at middle age, and how I put that off for years and years because I was so afraid that they were going to tell me I was doomed and that I'd made all the wrong decisions. And it's just, there's so much stress about it. It's like getting on a scale almost. You're like, what?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't want to know that. That's what the cost of Twinkies is. And it's like that shame that you really feel. And turns out that it's actually so much better when you at least, as you say, pull back that curtain.
I think podcasts have become a community where you tune in and you're like, oh my gosh, I like these people. I think I like what I have to say. I like the people they invite on. I can imagine myself talking to them. And so I think this is an opportunity to, listen to some experts who I'll bring in, listen to some regular people who have done great things or made great mistakes and how they bounce back from them. And I think that's fascinating because I really do think that, we need a community. We need a community where we can feel good about ourselves and not compare ourselves and, not, all the FOMO and YOLO and all LOL, whatever, all the things.
There's so
that
many
we feel.
O's that were influence us that you're like, I don't even know how to save money. I can't YOLO and FOMO and save money. It's too hard.
Yeah.
And wait, we get a little background on you. We come from a mom who's she is literally you could be dead tomorrow. And so it's the worst financial planning.
I think she might have invented YOLO.
Oh, I swear to God. It's every time
jump roping to fame in the 70s.
Yes, exactly. It's like, Mom, should I buy this dress? Oh, you could be dead tomorrow. You should. It's $500. Who cares? It's not an emergency copay. Those are her.
I know. Yeah. Right.
How did we ever save a dime?
I don't know. And then to the other end, I once wanted to buy my son a Lego set that was ridiculous. I mean, I think it was the Lego Death Star. It was all the rage. I mean, anybody who wanted Star Wars, I think it was $400 or something. And I just thought one Christmas I was like, maybe. And my father looked at me and he's like, if you spend $400 on plastic, I will kill you. And you know what I mean?
Smart.
But these are the lessons that when we're in our 40s or when we're 4 that we pick up on. I've talked to money experts who are, talk about behavioral science and all these things. And they say that your money mindset is set by the time you're 8 years old. So all of these influences that you have when you're little, they stay with you. And that's the other thing about personal finance being personal. It really is either to an excess of access to funds or a lack of access, whatever that is, it stays with you and you bring that into your daily lives, into your personal lives, into your work lives. And so we have a lot to unpack.
Let me ask you this. What do you think the smartest financial decision you make on a daily, weekly, monthly basis is? What do you think the smartest thing is? And what do you think the sort of most kind of irresponsible thing you do is that you're trying to rein in?
I think the best thing I've ever done is pay myself first. And what I mean by that is when I get paid for anything, a percentage of that goes into my retirement a percentage of that goes into a dedicated savings account, and a percentage of that goes into another savings account that I'm saving something specifically for. And because of that, I only see what goes into my checking account, which is where all my bills get paid. And if I only see that, then that's what I budget from. I think we fall into a trap where we budget from our gross pay, which I teach myself little tricks on how to remember things. It's gross that we don't see all that money because, if you actually saw the money that you got in your gross pay, like, wow. But we don't. We have, obviously taxes and Social Security and everything taken out of that. Then we have our health insurance, all these things that if we are on a payroll somewhere that would get automatically deducted. And then, you have your net. But from there, I don't consider that my net. I pay myself first because I really do believe that at whatever age you are, your future self matters. And so you have to pay that person like it's a bill because that's yourself. And if if you don't do that, then you will not start, accumulating any funds in your retirement or an emergency savings. And then when that happens, that's when you have to rely on loans and credit cards, and that can be really sticky. And perhaps the worst thing I've ever done, I could probably do an entire podcast and might do about the biggest mistakes I've made. But I think one of them is paying for storage because you move throughout your life. I've moved several times, and I've paid to store things that I then threw out or donated. There's that book, The Art. What is that book, Lauren? Where like you hold something once, it's like if it doesn't bring you joy.
Oh, Marie Kondo?
Yes. Okay.
I hate that lady. Do you know how many things I got rid of? And I'm like, where is that? Oh my God. I'm like,
but she has a point, okay? Because she also says you should only like touch it once. Like when you're cleaning something out, touch it once. I will take it, I'll put it in one pile, I'll move it to the next pile, I'll put it in the giveaway pile, then I'll put it back in my clothes pile. I mean, I don't follow her advice, and I wish I did. And especially in times when I've moved, it's like, why did I pay to store this? This is ridiculous. Someone could be using it.
I thought for sure you were going to say having a teenage daughter.
Oh, yeah, I know. That's true.
Do you want Starbies?
That's true,
okay.
I know. Luckily, she has a job, and she's cute. So
yeah, exactly. It helps.
And I like her. But no, that's that meme about having a teenage daughter is like having a best friend who thinks you're rich. That's very true.
Exactly. Yeah. Let's see. So I guess maybe. You answered a couple of questions that I had, like mistakes that people make with money, financial tips. Paying yourself first, I would assume, is like the best financial tip that you've ever gotten, right? Okay, because that's
Definitely.
A really good one. Similar to the question I asked you before, but I'm curious, what's your guilty pleasure when it comes to spending money? What do you like to spend a lot of money on?
Yeah, I like experiences. I would rather do something fun than, decorate my home or buy new clothes. As you probably notice, I'm always wearing something. I'm like, hey, this is from sophomore year in high school.
It's so true, you guys.
I know.
It's so true. I'm like, is that from the first Bush administration?
I know.
Like, honestly, it's like, and then the other thing is just like, you're like, where'd you get that? Mom's closet. It's just
I'll borrow anything. I love other people's stuff.
Okay. So do you want to do some rapid fire questions?
Okay. Let's go.
All right. Okay. I have a couple here. What's your go-to karaoke song?
Oh, I'm so terrible at karaoke. I know I'm like just talked about how I'm a singer and a performer. I
feel like there's a difference.
Kelly Clarkson.
Okay.
I destroy everything Kelly Clarkson. I'm like good at those like 80s duets, like Friend and Lover. If there's like a guy who wants to sing that kind of song, like I'm good at that. Aaron Neville kind of duets.
Okay.
But no, I'm terrible at karaoke.
80s duets. I like it. If your life had a theme song, what would it be? Or they call it like a walk-on song, like in baseball. What would your walk-on song be?
Better When I'm Dancing. That song by I'm Better When I'm Dancing. Meghan Trainor.
Yes. Okay.
It's in the Peanuts movie.
Yes, it is.
I'm totally better when I'm dancing.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. What is your most used emoji?
Oh, that lady with the red dress who's like, "Ha-cha."
Yes, you use it all the time, which goes with the better when, because I'm like, I'll send her something, and then she like has the cha-cha lady, and I'm like, it's not really a cha-cha like question, but okay.
I love that lady.
But you do you, because she's dancing, and you're better when you're dancing.
Thanks for tuning in to Behind the Curtain, Money Made Simple. If you liked what you heard, if you learned something, subscribe, leave a review, and tell a friend, because good financial education deserves a standing ovation. And remember, you don't have to know all the steps before you take the stage. You just need the courage to show up, ask questions, and maybe, just maybe, sing a little bit along the way. I'm Julie Beckham, and Behind the Curtain, Money Made Simple is brought to you by Rockland Trust, member FDIC. The bank where each relationship matters, because we want you to have a healthy relationship with money at any age.